What's up, everyone? Welcome to the next installment of the World Cup preview series. We are rolling along in Group B. First up was England, and now today we are talking about Iran, sixth World Cup appearance overall, third in a row for Iran. Iran got here by going through two different group stages in Asian Football Confederation qualifying. In that second, more difficult stage, they topped their group. It was a group that included South Korea and the UAE. So plenty of teams in contention in the South Korea's case that also qualified for this World Cup. But Iran came out on top and has a real argument as the best team entering this tournament from the Asian qualifying region. And that is in large part to the key players. Three of them I want to highlight here. First off, Sardar Azmoun. He had 10 goals, 4 assists, and 14 appearances during qualifying. He just joined Bayer Leverkusen after spending plenty of years in Russia. Had a very impressive performance in his second Bundesliga game. Is starting to really sort of get the feel for that league. And of course, you've got to be gifted to be playing in the Bundesliga. Azmoun certainly is. Second, Alireza Jahanbakhsh. You might know him as the guy who had that incredible goal on New Year's Day against Chelsea when everybody was kind of asleep and not paying attention, and then everybody woke up that morning and he had already scored because I think it was the first game of the day. Yeah, it's that guy. 2 goals and 1 assist in his 50 Premier League games for Brighton. Never really sort of clicked. He was coming off of a fantastic season with AZ Alkmaar in the Dutch Eredivisie and was supposed to really help this Brighton team, and it just never really clicked for him. Plenty of appearances off the bench, but never sort of solidified himself in the Premier League. Like I said, only 2 goals in those 50 appearances. So last season, he returned to the Eredivisie where he had so much success previously with Feyenoord. Did not reach the levels he had before, but he's one of those guys. The technical ability is spectacular. He is capable of something special at any given moment. He is capable of being the difference maker in a game anytime he takes the field. And so, regardless of sort of where he's at in his career and how things are going club-wise, he is somebody you need to be paying attention to every time Iran takes the field because he has that ability to just take your breath away and do something spectacular every time he's on the field. Third is Mehdi Taremi. Last 2 seasons in Portugal, second in goal involvement per 90 minutes in the league. Last season, the only guy producing more goals per 90 minutes than Mehdi Taremi was Darwin Núñez, who is now at Liverpool. That's the level Mehdi Taremi is playing at. And you also may know him for, ironically, another spectacular goal against Chelsea. Chelsea really just not loving many of these players on the Iranian national team after what they've done to him the past couple of years. This one he scored in the Champions League. And so you look at this trio, and this is part of what I want to highlight here about this Iran team. We're going to get more into kind of what we can take away from their appearance in 2018 at the end. But when these 3 guys were on that 2018 roster, they were not playing in the Bundesliga, having 50 games of Premier League experience, playing in the Champions League, playing in other European competitions, scoring goals against Chelsea. These 3 players in particular have really come into their own in the past 4 years. And so part of what is really interesting about this Iran team is what does that mean and what does that look like from a creative standpoint when you get to this World Cup? I'll save a little bit more for later, but these 3 guys have really taken a step forward in their careers and are becoming bigger names on the international club level because they're playing in European competitions, they're scoring great goals, they're playing, Taremi is not playing in a top 5 league, but he's playing in a top 7 league and performing in the Champions League. Jahanbakhsh has plenty of experience in the Premier League, and Azmoun's now playing in the Bundesliga. This is legit attacking talent that you may not necessarily associate with a team like Iran. Don't underrate the pure ability of the players they're going to bring to this tournament. They are talented, especially up front, and their ranking in the the FIFA World Rankings reflects that. I believe they're 23rd right now, somewhere in there. There's a reason for that. That is not some kind of bizarre aberration. In terms of a breakout star, don't have many choices because so many of the guys that are going to end up on this roster are in their prime or maybe near the end of it or just coming into it. As I've talked about before, my objective is to keep this player under the age of 25. And so the best option and a guy who really does sort of fit what I'm hoping to get out of this segment is Mohammad Mohebi. Played only 220 minutes during qualifying, but scored 2 goals, had 2 assists, and at the age of 23 is already playing in the Portuguese top flight with Mehdi Taremi. Now, Taremi is playing for a Champions League quality team. Mohebi is playing for Santa Clara, who are not a European competition quality team. But he had 2 goals, 4 starts last season. So still trying to sort of cement himself on the European stage in terms of becoming a regular contributor to a team playing in a good European league. But again, he's 23. And if somebody is going to sort of take that next step, increase their stock, jumpstart their career in this World Cup, going to become a name we're not familiar with, but we know leaving it, to me, it is Mohammad Mohebi from this Iranian team. As I mentioned, the attacking trio and where they are in their careers is, for me, the biggest reason to be optimistic about this Iran team. When the World Cup starts, Azmoun will be 27, Jahanbakhsh will be 29, and Taremi will be 30. All smack dab in their primes. And not only do they have the experience of 2018, but like I said, they will not be fazed by the names they see and the players that they're taking the field against in this group. And it's particularly important in this group because from top to bottom, I would argue it's the deepest in the World Cup. If you want to call Iran, quote-unquote, the 4th team and Wales, quote-unquote, the 3rd, I mean, Gareth Bale is showing up for the team that nobody thinks is going to get out of this group. If you're going to ask everybody to pick 2 teams, the favorites are the U.S. and England. Taremi has seen these kind of players before. He's playing in the Champions League and doing just fine. Jahanbakhsh played against these guys in the Premier League. Azmoun's seen guys of these quality in the Bundesliga. And so maybe the talent does drop off there and you don't have that many other guys playing in Europe. But for the players that matter that are going to determine this, they will not be fazed one bit by going up against Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, throw Christian Pulisic in there for the U.S. There are a lot of European stars in this group because it has England and because of Gareth Bale. This is not going to be something new for the guys who are going to have to carry this Iran team. And I also want to take a little bit of time to talk about 2018 and what it means for this team and kind of the context they're going to enter this World Cup in. So they were put in a group in 2018 with Spain, Portugal, Morocco. And again, this is before you had all of this high-level experience and your best players had really become these contributors at a high level in Europe. They finished 1 point behind Spain and Portugal. They conceded 2 goals in their 3 group stage games. The other 3 teams in this group conceded a combined 13. So the first thing you know going in, and this has been true of Iran consistently, they are going to be hard to break down, defensively sound, not going to beat themselves. They're going to make you find a way through them. And that is a terrific place to start, particularly in a group with teams and I can make the argument for all three, vulnerable to having games where the offense just doesn't show up, doesn't click, and looks disjointed. We've seen it in the Nations League for England. It's a constant topic of conversation when it comes to the U.S. And if Gareth Bale isn't clicking, Wales can fall into that problem too as a team that's already sort of predisposed to be focusing on defense and not attack anyway. Spain, Portugal. All kinds of attacking talent, all kinds of big names. Iran, 2 goals conceded at the 2018 World Cup. Now, where the question is, the cause for concern, is that, like I said, they conceded 2 goals and failed to get out of their group because they scored twice. Both goals came in stoppage time. One was a no goal, one was a penalty kick. You are not getting out of this group with 2 goals. The 3 other teams are too good, and there's too much individual attacking talent. And particularly when you talk about it from a depth perspective, right? England, we know what they can do. The U.S. has plenty from Pulisic to Reina, whoever ends up playing at the striker position, Brendan Aronson, you go down the list. Attacking creativity, not the primary issue with that team, particularly out wide. Then you've got the ultimate potential game winner, difference maker guy in Gareth Bale for Wales. These teams are going to score goals. The question for Iran, the thing that has to change is they have got to get more chances. They've got to be better creating, and they've got to take advantage of them. They don't need to be scoring 2 goals a game. But to put up enough points in a group where all 4 teams rightfully feel they have a chance to get out of it, you got to score more than twice, and you got to score in the opening 90 minutes. The final thing I'll say here is, you look at all of these groups, and I went through and did this group by group by group. This is the only group in which you look at Iran and call them the quote-unquote 4th team or worst team. This is not your typical final team that gets thrown in there that everybody expects to get a point or two. If they beat somebody, it sort of throws the group potentially into chaos because those are points you're not supposed to drop, that kind of thing. I do see Iran as the 4th team in this group. But at the end of the day, the margins are so slim. I could see a world in which Wales finishes bottom. I can see a world in which Iran goes through. And it's fascinating because you're starting with England. That's the other part of this too. If you lose that game, all hope is not lost, but now you've got a lot of pressure on you. Because either you're a point behind both of the other 2 teams, or you are now, right, England's got 3 points and one of those other 2 teams has 3 points. But if you can take even a point from England, now all of a sudden the other 2 teams have to play England. You absolutely feel like you can go beat Wales, and you feel like you can beat the U.S. too. If you find a way to win one of those games, you draw the other one, odds are you're going through. This is, for me, perhaps the most difficult group to predict 1 through 4. Because I know what should happen. But I am not willing to dismiss any of these 4 teams. I can make a very strong argument for all 4 of them as to why they're going to get out of this group. So if you're swapping Iran with other into another group, to me, in every single one of those groups, assuming you don't take out the weakest team, they are the 3rd team. Maybe even more simply put, there's a team in every single other group worse than Iran. They just happen to get a tough draw here, and The other three teams happen to get a tough draw with them as the last team in the group because there are no guaranteed points out of this game. If Osmoon, Jahanbash, and Taremi are rolling, it would not be stunning, in my mind, for Iran to go through. But you are asking an awful lot, and you are expecting the offensive production to go through the roof compared to what we saw in 2018. This is, if you just take the 32 best teams in the world, forget about regions and the qualifying process, Iran is absolutely one of them. That can't be said about every team coming to this tournament. Do they have enough offensively, and can they replicate what they did defensively? They are capable of it, but can they actually execute? Because you need both things working, and that's ultimately what this is going to come down to, and why I have a hard time seeing Iran able to put this together for 3 games to do what is needed to get out of the group. Is you've got to keep these teams off the... It sounds very simple, but right, you got to stop Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden and company from scoring, and you got to beat somebody. You got to actually score a goal and keep a clean sheet. And that can be Wales too, but that Wales defense is very good. You got to score on them, right? You got to find a way to get a win to have a real shot at going through, unless everything breaks your way. Can Iran do that? We'll have to see, but this is not the point I really want to leave everyone with is this team is better than you would think. The talent, especially at the very top, is real. These guys are playing at an incredibly high level. Don't underestimate this team. Don't think this is going to be a walk in the park. They are right there on the same level as Wales. To me, they are 3A and 3B. Both capable of finishing bottom, both capable of getting through if they can catch a break and win, pull off an upset here or there. I don't expect either of them to go through, but it wouldn't shock me if they do. That's all we got on Iran. Be sure to continue watching and looking out for the rest of these World Cup previews as we get closer. And make sure to subscribe both right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, and on Substack for all of my written preview, all of the written content, touchlinetalk.substack.com. And we'll see you next time.